Jaelin, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. So she's going to introduce herself better. But I would just love that each and every one of us to pay as much attention as possible, because this promises to be a truly interesting and webinar for us to learn a lot from. And if we give our attention, I'm sure that we can get off with one or two things that will help us in our career, especially in the tech field. So once again, I want to welcome everyone. And for those people joining us, I would like us to do something. If for everyone joining us, you can just, like, on the chat, just the country you're joining us from, just let us know. So that would be nice. We'd just like to see the diversity among our participants. So just on the chat, just tell us which country you're joining us from. And I think that's that for that. And I will hand over now to Jaelin to kickstart us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aka. So I'll share my screen here. I'm gonna move my control.
Yes.
So everybody can see my screen?
Yes, we can see. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, is this correct data lab analytics?
Yeah.
Right, great. Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending today. My name is Jaelin, and I'm going to present today about how to learn faster and smarter for especially tech skills. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm from MillionLives.ai. Let's start. Okay, for the next 30 to 40 minutes, I will go through self-introduction, who I am, why I'm here, and the common learning challenges that I noticed in learning coding and technical skills, and how to learn faster these technical skills. And then if we have some time left, I'm going to talk about maybe the thoughts for fulfilling career and life in terms of my perspective, and then maybe 20 minutes Q&A. Sounds good? Okay. So self-introduction. So I am currently an AI consultant at MillionLives.ai. So it's my own sole proprietorship. And I currently have clients in the US, Canada, and in the past in Europe. And I'm also a founder and iOS developer at LearnFaster. It's an iOS app that I built to teach or help learners how to learn faster, smarter, and faster. And at the same time, I'm really into learning, you can see. I'm also doing the YouTube. I'm a YouTuber. I recently started in January this year, so it hasn't been too long. But I think there are a lot of people actually like it. So I have hundreds of views, and one of them got really got a lot of attention. So like over like 3,000 views. About a month ago, I published about how to remember everything. So here I teach how to learn faster using active learning skills. So if you look at my kind of bio in the recent years, these are what I have done, and then previously that's what I was doing. So if you can see it, I'm very diverse professional in many different areas, and I'm sure maybe some of you are like that too. You know, you just started data science or machine learning, but then before you might have been doing something else, right? So I think we kind of can relate to each other. So just to talk about a little bit, in the recent years, I've been doing AI, machine learning, data science for the past 2-3 years, and I've been a lead machine learning engineer at Omdena, and I was in a Kaggle X mentorship program with Yemi actually. And then and I won some awards in Datathon 2 years ago. And I took some courses in MIT. It was a professional certificate program. It was about like 4 to 6 months. And it was a very good program. It was live with the professors at MIT. And also I took some courses at edX. That was actually the start of my journey in data science. And previously, I have more than 10 years of experience in many different areas in innovation engineering, government consulting in Canada, and architecture and construction. I was dealing with the building data and energy sector, oil and gas and renewable energy, also social entrepreneurship. And I was working in IT before in Korea for General Motors. And I have a weird a degree in chemical engineering in bachelor's and master's. But so it's interesting, eh?
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so if you look at it, these are my pivot points. I had 4 major pivot points in different industries. I'm telling you this because I think some of you might relate to your career journeys and pivoting to AI. If you look at it, every single stage of pivoting, I had learning, I had a period of working either in projects or competitions, and then a period of meeting, like a socializing, networking with the new people. And then I also started to incorporating teaching what I learned, like knowledge sharing through YouTube. And I was actually teaching in the college and here in Ottawa as a professor, part-time professor for short-term, and Medium articles and like workshops like this and things like that. So what I wanted to point out here is that at first, my first pivoting point, it was only learning. Maybe I was learning language, or maybe I was learning some courses from school or online. But then as my experience in pivoting progresses, I started incorporating competitions and projects, and started incorporating networking with other people, started incorporating teaching other people. And I find as I progress like this, it becomes much more easier to find a new job more quickly, and then also in a way that satisfies my desire, more aligned into my own values. So at the beginning, first pivot, I had to look for the job. So I was contacting the headhunters, I was contacting these people. But then as I go to my third pivot and the fourth pivot, people were actually reaching out to me. The reason is that because I already shared a lot of things that I already knew, and or that I was sharing things that I was learning, so that people will look at those and they reach out to me. Hey, you look like you're an expert, and I want to give you a job. I want to work with you. So there was a lessons learned for me, and I wanted to share that so that you might want to benefit from this approach as well. Okay, so I was told that you are learning, most of you at least, are learning data science for the first time. Is this correct? Is it the right statement?
Yes,
Yemi?
it's,
Okay,
yes,
great.
that's true.
Yeah. So I want to kind of share what kind of things that people usually feel when they first encounter learning new things like a data science. So you might feel, I don't know, like you can read through these things and you can kind of answer yourself, have you ever felt any of these that I presented here? They're too much to learn, but I don't have enough time. I don't remember anything what I learned from school. I actually don't remember too much from what I learned from school 10 years ago. So I think there's something wrong about that. You know, I don't think what I learned was useful. I didn't think it was useful, most of the things. And now I'm trying to learn a lot of things, but then I'm stuck in a tutorial hell. And so then I ask myself, am I stupid? You know, so I wanted to learn faster and smarter. That was kind of my motivation. Okay, I need to get out of this. I need to find a way. And the second section on the right, it talks about mostly your career experience. You might have had some career in the past, but it was not really fulfilling to you. It was not really meaningful. Okay, you might get a good pay, but you might not have satisfaction in your own career. So you're kind of switching to this new era, new domain of data science, but then you might also feel worried about, okay, well, AI is growing so fast. Am I still going to be marketable in the growing market? So I just wanted to address some of these things in my presentation. So if you have felt any of this, I think you'll be interested in my presentation. And I actually wanted to tell you before I start the presentation that actually I failed a coding class 10 years ago when I was in university. And I signed up for the coding class. It said computer-aided design, and it was said it's CAD. So I thought it was AutoCAD. I don't know if you guys know AutoCAD. It's kind of design software for drawing architectural plans. I thought it was that, but then it turned out to be Java programming. So, okay, well, you know what? I don't think it's what I signed up for, but then it sounds still interesting. I'm gonna try. But then I was in a master's program, and then I was allowed to take the fourth year class of bachelor's, and then that was a fourth year class. And everybody already knew how to code. They learned the C++, the Java, and everything. They already learned it before they became fourth year. So I was the only odd one that didn't know anything about coding. I never heard about Java. And then, so I failed the course. Then at that point, I said, to myself, you know what? I'm never going to do coding. This is not my thing. And 10 years later, this is what I'm doing. So I think it's very encouraging to anybody who felt that coding might be too difficult for you. But if you really have a right approach and the right mindset, then you can do it just the way I'm doing right now. So these are all, some of the things that I built myself. So I want to start with a quote by Leonardo da Vinci, who is known to be very genius for many different areas in science and paintings and all sorts of things. And he said, "Learning never exhausts the mind." Do you agree?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. So let's see how we can learn things easily and fun way so that it doesn't exhaust the mind. These are some common challenges. I picked three. The first one, as I said before, after the exam, I don't remember anything. I think it's very common. Now, you might score very well in the exam, but sometimes you don't remember anything. And the second is that, well, I learned a lot of things, but then when it comes to having a conversation, when I'm asked to provide my opinion, actually, I don't really have an opinion. Maybe sometimes I know things, but it didn't really digest. I didn't really digest, and it didn't really become mine. So that when it comes to sharing my thoughts, it kind of becomes like I don't have anything to say. And the challenge 3 is I feel imposter, too much to learn, and the things are growing so fast. And I learned this, but 6 months later, it's already outdated. So I don't feel good. Maybe I'm not enough, and I'm stupid, and maybe like that. So we're gonna find a way to fix this. So how to learn the tech skills faster? And I have actually 17 ways of doing that. Hopefully some of this will hit you in the right spot. The first of all, you need to start. I mean, it helps if you start a daily learning goal in the morning. If you set it up in the morning, and then kind of check on yourself, your emotions. And just checking your emotions daily helps you become positive in the long run. So you ask yourself, what would you like to have happen today? So this is actually a very well-designed question that is called clean language. Clean language is something that some psychiatrists or other consultants, coaches, they use to bring out what's within you, the responder, without me, the person who is asking, influencing your answer. So if you ask this question to yourself, you can really pull out things from your own and deep inside, and you can set your goals more meaningful way. So you ask yourself, when you do that, you could also check your emotion, how you feel right now. Okay, I feel this way, and I would like this to happen today. And that's kind of becomes your learning goal. Then sometimes we're trying to learn a lot of things, but we don't know which question. If you have to answer one question, what is that question that you want answered? Oftentimes, if you don't know that, so we kind of jump around everywhere and then we get lost, and you know what, I don't know, maybe I'm not getting it, right? So when you feel that, come back and just write this one answer. What question am I trying to answer? And write it down on the paper. Then before you go and search YouTube or Google or ask AI, you do your own answer. So this is a question that I want to answer. And what do I think the answer is? It's okay if you have no idea, but still you can brainstorm. Okay, well, based on what I learned before or in my own intuition, I feel like you should do this way. And then you branch out like one of these things that you see on the paper here. You branch out to a subtree, and then, oh, I think this is how you do it. And to do that, how else should I do? And then you keep going down and dig into what's within your brain first. Then you look for what others say about that. Then you can compare. Maybe you were correct, maybe you were incorrect, but it's still very good. Even if you got incorrectly, it actually helps you. The brain recognize that, oh, I got it wrong. I must pay attention. I must remember. So that's actually a very good step that you can take. So that's why you must do this first, and then you move on to look for what others say. Then, okay, I looked around, I watched YouTube, I did Google search and so on, but then I still feel this is difficult. And what do I do now? I feel overwhelmed. At this time, you stop again and say, can I actually understand this? And the second question, will I use this again? This is actually a very important question. These two questions, if you say no to any of these, our brain will say, okay, you know what? I don't think it's important. So I'm going to delete from my brain. So that's what's happening. So therefore, you need to try to answer this question to yes. So how do I do that? You start by asking another question. So what do I already know? As mentioned earlier, you write down what you already know. And then from there, what else do I need to know? Then you write that down under the branch. Then that's the thing that you look for when you do Google search and so on. And sometimes, well, this is a case of me trying to learn French. So when you don't know something, you're trying to read a research paper, you're trying to learn something very complicated, but your level is not there yet, right? So don't try. It's just gonna exhaust you. Go back to something more basic. Start from what you know. So in my case, when I tried to learn French, I went to the library, I picked up some French books in kids section, and the one has the pictures, the one has some stories. And as a human being, we really love the stories. So when you read something in storyline, we can remember better. It's scientifically proven, right? So you can pick up some kids books or something explained in an easier way, or something like a summary. This is like the app that I built to LearnFaster is a part of that screen that you can get the summary of YouTube video. It can generate quiz, and then you can listen to this summary, and you can kind of get the zest of what it is first. And if you understand, you move on to the next. If you don't understand this, you search from some keywords from here as well. And so, yeah, so when you ask AI, you know very well that they hallucinate, right? Sometimes they answer you the right answer, sometimes it's a wrong answer. But not just the AI, but also in Google search, when you ask, oh, is honey good for me? Then it's most likely gonna show you the result that says honey is very good because whatever. But if you ask the same question in the reverse way, is honey bad? And it's gonna likely show you that honey is bad because of this, right? So it's important that you actually ask both sides when you're either asking AI or asking the Google search, or asking someone else as well. And it's also another scientific research. that shows that after you're learning something, new information, if you quiz yourself within 20 minutes, I don't know why, but this 20 minutes a magic number. So if you quiz yourself within 20 minutes, it's gonna help you retain the knowledge better. And now you can summarize your own words. After you learn, it's very important that you internalize what you learn. Even when you're reading something, every sentence, you can even try every sentence you read something, and that you internalize. So how can I reword that? How can I summarize that with my own words? Then it's going to help you to understand the topic more deeply. And another technique so there are three things that I mentioned here. The first thing is that you convert what you're learning or listening, even during the meeting. It's really helpful if you think in diagrams. You listen something, but you draw what you're listening in terms of symbols, diagrams, and then that is the process that is of internalizing within yourself. So that helps you to understand better and remember things better. And the second thing is I speak, Korean because I'm from South Korea, and I speak Korean, English, and then some French. So for me, when I take notes, like the ones that I showed earlier, or even when I draw this kind of diagrams, I intentionally mix up languages. Let's say if I read in English, then I would write notes in Korean, and vice versa. So that also helps you to internalize things. So it makes sure that you're not just copying the word by word what you're hearing or reading, but you're actually having the process within your brain to convert it to with your own knowledge. So that's really helpful. I don't think a lot of people do that, but I find that this is very helpful and I want to share with you. The other one is that I guess it's more common. So when you're learning something, when you share your knowledge, it helps you to learn better too. So when you teach, you learn better. So either you can write a Medium article, you can create a YouTube video and teach other people how you just learned. That number 10, participate in real life projects. I don't know how much you're doing this, but for me, not just when I was learning how to do data science, machine learning, and all the AI stuff, but also even now, I'm very busy. I have multiple projects that I'm working on with my clients, like paid projects, but still I volunteer to participate in some of the volunteering projects. And this is really helpful because, as you know, AI is changing really quickly. And then when I was learning data science, they were teaching certain, the XGBoost or, time series, or all these things, but then they were not teaching the large language model at that time. But it's happening now. Everybody's learning that. So when I participate in this kind of projects, I get to see how other people code, how other people implement those projects, so that I get a good overview, even if maybe it's okay, like I don't understand the entire thing, but I still have a good overview and zest of, that's how it should be. So that's really good to keep yourself updated with the new technologies. And participate in competitions. Especially in the competitions, if there are organizations behind, it's really helpful. And it's really helpful if you're trying to find a team. Okay, okay, so you can do it yourself, you can participate in competition yourself, or you can find your own team. But if you can find, let's say for me, I was participating in a competition that I mentioned earlier, was in a Women in Data Science. So the Women in Data Science was organized by Stanford University, Harvard University, and so on, all these nice universities in the US. And then they assign some mentors and coaches, and we have sessions every week or every other week, and they check on you and they help you out. And there's a Slack channel or a Discord channel, and the people can ask questions, and there's some people, like other even participants, answer your questions and things like that. So that kind of a cohort environment is really helpful. So if you can find some of these competition, whether in Kaggle, for me, I found in Kaggle, but also in other other platforms, they have a lot of these competitions going on, so you can check it out. And for me, what I find more useful is a bit longer term competitions. Like there's like hackathons that are 3 days long or 1 day long. These are very high pressure, and if you don't know a lot to start with, then it doesn't really help you, just make you feel too nervous and stressed, and it doesn't really help you as much as the longer term competitions, like a couple of months at least, or even 4 weeks and things like that. And the next tip is go above and beyond. I know maybe you are starting now, you don't know too much, but don't ask permission. So for other people, I only learned this part, so I'm not qualified to try on other things. But if you have a curiosity, just follow that. Like for me, I was in a data science project, and I was data science, like a capstone project for MIT program that I participated. And the project outcome that they were asking for me to submit was a data science portion, which is just data analytics and maybe build a neural network model and then identify the malaria's infected blood cells. So I was doing that, but then I thought, you know what? It'd be really fun if I can actually make it in an app, and I can, scan myself on the phone, and wouldn't that be fun? So I looked it up. I was reaching out to people, and I heard you're doing this and that. Can you share the resource? So they were sharing my link, and they're sharing the session that, oh, this is happening. Maybe you can attend these things. So within a very short period of time, I reached out to people, and then I learned quickly. I didn't have to learn every single thing about how to build an app, but just enough to deploy my little app there, my little model there. So, and a lot of people really liked it. And even the people who was grading, the teachers, mentors who was grading my capstone project, and so yours was so impressive and whatever. So it also gave me courage and, empowerment. Okay, you know what? I can do it. And I did the same thing. And when I was doing in the Kaggle mentorship program, everyone else, I think most of the people was doing the data science, building models and things like that. But I really wanted to see from end to end. So I deployed to the web app, and I was kind of designing the UI for the iPhone app as well. So don't, even if somebody asks you to up to this point, if you're curious and you can deliver much higher, much beyond that. And then a lot of times people see that when they see your project, oh, you are really passionate about things and you are really curious people. And I can imagine when I work with you, it'd be like this, so they see it as a positive thing. Yeah, so I think when you're also reading, learning something, at some point you need to read books. Maybe it's related to the technical, let's say, code related books, or it can be a theory of that machine learning models, what's behind that, or some mathematics and so on. Or it could be theory about neuroscience, because you see that neural networks are built based on the neuroscience, right? So how our brain functions, how our neurons communicate. So I didn't have an intention to read this book to learn about neural network, but it happened to be that I was introduced about this book by someone actually from Blinkist. There was a girl who used to be work for content curation in Blinkist for many years, and I somehow got to talk to her, and then she recommended this book in her podcast, during her podcast, and I picked it up and I read it, and it talks about neuroscience and psychology and how we can maybe create an equation about our consciousness, what consciousness is in mathematics. It was interesting, but it was very, very difficult book. It was very difficult. Like when I picked it up, my English is not my first language. And there are a lot of jargons and scientific languages, and I gave up at first. But later, you know what? I'm gonna try. I learned how to learn, and I'm gonna apply this to this book. And you know what? I finished this book, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so happy about this book. I learned so much. And so what did I do? The technique that I learned is that when you find some books are difficult, then you need to start by finding some interest. You need to make yourself interested in this book. And the way you do it is to start from what you know. As I mentioned earlier, so when you're looking at the book, you can look at the front cover, back cover, and some forward and the closing words, or even table of contents, and see what interests you. Maybe there's some words that you know. Maybe there's something that sparks your interest. And then just pick that. Let's say the feelings here, the number 5, chapter number 5. I would go to page 91 and then read about feelings. Oh, is there something that I know about this? And what do I think what's in this chapter? I just imagine myself, in this chapter, I think maybe there are some number of feelings and positive and negative and how it relates to consciousness. And what do I think how it's related? And then I start writing that down on the paper or even on the book. So that's kind of, and then you can do a Google search about, okay, what is this terminology that shows here, you know? So you try to build the building blocks first, and then you come back to the book, and then it becomes much, much easier to read the book. And the second part on the last section here is I said QEC and marginalia. There are actually 2 different techniques. QEC is question, evidence, and conclusion. So this is actually very interesting, and I think this is the most helpful one for me to finish this book. So when you're reading something, you kind of mark in front. You see like a little dash line there. There's a little dot there. And if it's question, when you're reading something, oh, this is a question that the author is trying to answer, then you mark, you underline that question. And then the evidence, you do dash lines in front, and the conclusion, you do a little dot there. So when you're reading like this, you're dissecting what's in there. So it also helps you to process it, internalize it. So later you can remember things better, you can understand things better. So that's the first one. And marginalia is what you're writing in the margin of the book. So I used to, like when I'm back in school many years ago, when I was writing on the book, I was writing what's in the book. I said, oh, this is the thing, and I want to remember. So at the top, this one, this word definition is this. But I learned that that's actually not the best way to write notes in the books. The best way is actually you write your questions as you're reading things and say, oh, it makes me think about things. It makes me curious about things. And then you write that. And then you say, oh, what do I think that is? As I mentioned before, the same things. I think this is that. Then as you read it, you find the answer. Ah, okay, the author thought this way, but I thought this way. So you kind of match that, and that helps you learn better. And this is actually very interesting. This person is a vice dean, associate dean of Stanford. He's Korean. I was reading some Korean content, but I found that he was speaking Korean in this video, but he also has many videos. He talks in English as well. So he used to be an F student. It said that he was not very good, but then he became a dean of Stanford. And he developed this technology. Well, he's a associate dean of education technology department. So what he did is that he developed the tool in this mobile, like tablets and phones and things like that, that helps people to learn how to ask good questions. I don't know about you, but I ask myself a lot, like, how do I ask good questions when there is like, you know, some lectures, I want to ask good questions, but I don't know, maybe sometimes my question is too basic or not very good. I want to ask a very good question that can, you know, bring out some good insight out of this person. So he talks about 5 stages of the questions. So there's a level 1 question, which is the most basic one, is the what question, what is this and what is that definition and things like that. But a bit better question is how question. So if you ask how question, how does this work? Is that kind of underneath of what? And the third level 3 question, a bit better question, is a why question. Why is this happening? Why did this policy created, and why this war happened in this country and things like that. But level 4 question becomes more interesting. That's something that expands the horizon of time and also space. If we do this, what's the implication of this implementing this technology in the larger community, maybe around in the world, and what's going to be the impact in the future, and what would have been the impact in the past, and things like this. So if you kind of expand the time horizon and the space horizon, it becomes a more interesting question. And the level 5, the best type of question here is actually what it says is that the question that makes you smile. So that's why he called it smile technology. So the kids tend to ask these smile questions. What if question? So what if this and what if that? What's going to happen? So if you kind of brainstorm a lot of what if questions, and you might use this technique to find interesting project topic for you when you're doing maybe homework, or when you're working on different projects in the real life, when you get hired or when you start your own project. If you brainstorm on these things and asking good questions, then you will have a less chance to worry about, okay, what if this is already done? What if other people do it better than me, or things like that. So before you start working on something, try to identify what is really important. And you can start by asking this level 5, level 4 questions. And this one, I think it applies to many places. And I don't know if you remember when you're in school, maybe university, there were professors or teachers who are there, but they don't seem to be very enthusiastic about the topic, or I don't know, they're bored or something. And then they're teaching you, but they're kind of they're not really willing. They don't have this strong, yeah, they don't have this strong desire to transmit my knowledge to you. But that's the kind of person, kind of teacher that you're looking for. You want to find person who is really, really want to transmit what they know, what their understanding is to you, right? So if you find these people, stick around and be nice to them. And then, yeah, you can learn a lot from them. And also, if you look at this, this is what Socrates said. If you read or heard about the book called The Phaedrus by Plato, Plato collected a lot of conversations that happened with Socrates. So in this book, Socrates talked about that. So no man will be a good teacher who is not at the same time a good student, good learner. And the teacher must be willing to instruct others, but also they need to try to understand the instrument of learning of others, how other people learn. Okay, almost towards the end. And this one, it's very interesting. A lot of genius people in the history, they use their dreams to solve problems. Have you ever thought about, have you heard these people putting the notepad right next to their beds, and when they wake up, they remember something, they found something, some answers in their dreams, and write that down. There are a lot of people like that. And the people in the history, the geniuses, including the Einstein, he did the same thing. And I found another book as a Korean professor who wrote this book, who also talked about, actually, I take a nap intentionally. I think about one question very deeply for a very long time. And when I feel tired, I don't resist. I just have a very comfy chair, not like completely flat, but some like inclined and comfy chair. That's where I think about things. And he would, when he gets tired, he just takes a nap. And when he wakes up, he has an idea and has some sort of a brilliant answer to the question, and oftentimes, and that's how we solve the very technical problems, very difficult problems in science as well. So that's why he wrote this book. And I can give you another example. Thomas Edison, he invented a lot of things in the history. And what he did was that when he was taking a nap, he would have a metal ball on his hand, and he would kind of sleep like that. And then when he falls asleep, it drops and it wakes him up. And that's where you have a great idea as well. You still remember the dreams. And he would write the solutions in that. And this works because you know how REM sleep works. And REM sleep is a time that rapid eye movement, that's when we dream. But when we fall asleep at the beginning, it's not REM sleep. You're kind of getting in there. And then there's a REM sleep that you have a dream. That's where you solve problems, connecting to unconscious level. And then you get out of that REM sleep and then you wake up. So if you're naturally waking up, very likely you wouldn't remember your dream. But if you're kind of woken up in the middle by dropping the ball or somebody waking you up, you have more likely chance to remember that dream. That's why how these people did what they did. Okay, this is the last one. There's another person called Carl Witte. He was in German, and he lived in 1767 to 1845. So he lived in the 18th century, and he had a child who was kind of he had a challenge when he was born. He had a challenge in his intellectual ability. So the child was kind of slow at learning, but then this person, Carl Witte, applied his own way of educating the child. And this became, this made the child a genius. And at 9 years old, he was speaking 6 different languages fluently, including Latin, Italian, and Greek, and all sorts of languages. And he entered the university at 9 years old. And when he was 16 years old, he already had 2 PhDs. And he started teaching at the university when he was 16 until he died at 83 years old. Okay, so this is the book. If you're interested, you can look for that as well. And I read this, I actually read a book that was written by his child, the one who got educated with this methodology. And then he talked about how he felt, what his experience was learning in this way. And in the book, there are many things you can look into that. I also made a video about that recently in YouTube. You can look for that as well. It's in one of them, I just want to say one of them is to have a rhythm. When you're learning something, I have a tendency to kind of sit one spot, and for 8 hours, actually, I don't move. I don't even stand up. I just do coding. I get stuck in problem. I try to solve. I know maybe some of you do that too, right? But as I said, it's good to have a rhythm. When you're learning something, you take a break. And then also switch topic. Don't get stuck in one topic. It's more helpful to kind of switch your brain into different topics. Let's say you studied for 2 hours in one topic, and you take a little break, and then you come back to another topic. And then after you take a break, you come back to the first topic that you're looking at it, then all of a sudden, you will notice that it actually seems much easier than what it was before. So this way, you can use your time more efficiently, and you can solve your problems faster. So that's, and then this timer you see, I love this timer. I've been using this for the past 3 years, if not more. It's called Time Timer. It's a bit expensive, I think, but you can buy it in Amazon, like $60 or something. But it has you can move. I can show it here. I have it here too. So you can move these things, and they just goes da 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 da. And when the time's up, there is a kind of an option to make it silent. or beeping. So you can use it in the library and coffee shop without bothering anybody. And it also doesn't tick. It doesn't have a ticking noise. I'm really sensitive to sound, so I hate that. And this one is very quiet. So I use that all the time. And I just give myself, you know what? I work for 2 hours. I need to stop. So that's kind of a reminder for me to stop and take a break. All right. So I don't know, how are you doing with the time, Yemi?
Yeah, we should be rounding up about now.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to talk too much about this. It's just maybe I will quickly talk about one thing. This is a neuroscientist called Jack Panksepp, and he has identified the 7 innate instinctive emotions that humans feel. And from those 7, seeking is a very interesting emotion that I want to talk about. And that's what motivates us internally. So when you're trying to learn something, or when you're trying to do anything, like even scrolling of social media, that is because of this seeking emotion that's coming out from you. And why this is happening is because in old days, in hunter-gatherer times, like, unlike if you think about plants versus human, they're different. And the difference is plants, they can just stand where they are and they can get energy, generate energy on their own. They can pull the energy from the ground. But humans, we cannot. The animals, we cannot. That's why we have to look around. We have to seek for things. What we need is not here. What we need is on our environment. That's why we need to do the exploration and seeking. That's why we have innate. If you don't feel any of these other emotions, we are default to feel seeking and therefore scrolling and things like that. So if you understand this, if you notice that you're scrolling, okay, you know what? I know this is why I'm feeling this way. I will stop. I will let my brain to seek for actually a better answer for a better question, right? So that's where you can kind of redirect your focus. Yeah, so I'll just quickly say the 7 thoughts for fulfilling career. To have that, for me, you do long-term networking. When you're trying to reach out to somebody for short-term gain, that's when you say, like, oh, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? You know what? This is a short-term gain related networking, but nobody likes that. No, the receiving person doesn't like that, and this relationship is not going to go long term. But if you approach a person, a mentor or potential person, maybe employer, if you find something really admirable, respectful, or something interesting about the person or their work, then you just cultivate the relationship over long term. Maybe ask to have a little chat and to kind of share their experiences or their interests, and then over the long term, they might help you. Even if they don't ask you for a job, they might have something and they'll just share the opportunity with you. So that's the main thing that I wanted to say. And the rest of the points, I just touch on that. Trust your ability. You don't ask for permission, just do it and stay connected with your dream. Even if you have to do something to put food on your table, stay connected with the communities and volunteer and project that I mentioned before, and participate in competition so that you stay connected with your dream. And if you feel that your job is not right for you, maybe there's something, maybe you don't find a good growth environment, then you know what, maybe sometimes it's better if you make the decisions early and look for something else instead of linger there for long, and it's going to make it difficult to get you out there. And if you don't have a lot of experience, if you don't have a good resume, say yes to project. You can volunteer for project, can create your own project and share what you learned with other people. And seek curious people. There are a lot of people who just settle in for a good paycheck and looking for pension, but I never found a good growth environment when there are a lot of people like that. And when I notice it, actually, I get out and look for somebody else, some other organization. So maybe it's going to be helpful for you as well. And the last point, share and teach, write articles and create YouTube videos or try to teach somebody. then it's going to help you more to retain the knowledge and understand better as well. Okay, my last quote that I want to share. This person, I think, is a blues musician, used to be. He's died now, I think. But he says, the beautiful thing about learning is that nobody can take it away from you. With this quote, I close my presentation. And if you want to connect with me, I have a LinkedIn. I have a LearnFaster LinkedIn page as well for my app. It's gonna get published within a week or two. And I have my YouTube channel, Jaelin Lee. If you want to connect with me, watch some videos there, you're welcome to do so. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jaelin Lee. That was a very wonderful presentation. I actually learned quite a lot from that presentation.
Great.
I think for me, what I learned, I think something very important I learned was, it's quite on the funny side though, but when you're facing difficult problems, just take a nap. Kind of, yeah. So it's a nap might be the solution to that problem you have been trying to solve for a very long time. And, it actually works out. It has worked for me quite a number of times too. So
that's good to hear.
So it's very nice. Yeah. So thank you very much for that presentation once again. It's really a lot. What we're going to do very quickly is that we're going to make space for questions. So if you have questions for our speaker, so what you're going to do so that there will be a bit of order is that you indicate on the chat if you have a question. So you indicate on the chat, or maybe you wave with an emoji or something like that, and we'll call you up for your question. If you have any question. So please, if you have any question, just indicate you have a question, and we can call you up. So either on the chat or using an emoji, just indicate. But while others try to get their questions in order, I have like 2 questions here. I think I can go ahead and ask them. Yeah. So I think the first one is how do beginners handle information overload, because there's a lot of information coming in, especially in this fast-paced tech world. A lot of things are coming in. So how do you handle information overload to create a structure to your learning here?
Yeah, I've mentioned before that you need to start from what you're interested in. Obviously, there are a lot of things in the world to learn, but you cannot just dive in from the beginning to all at once, right? So you start from what you know, so you start from what you're interested in, and then you can branch out from there. And the best way to do it is actually drawing the diagrams, and you see, kind of brainstorm about what you're interested in, and then what you know, and then it will surface some interesting questions for you, and that's where you can start.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's very helpful. I have one more question. So how do beginners and newbies in tech keep up with latest information? Like we all know, things happen very fast in the tech field. You wake up today and they tell you, oh, this stuff is obsolete. This is not how we do things now. Things have changed. So what is the best way you think that people can keep up with the latest advancements in the tech world?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question. And I think a lot of people feel this way. And I actually feel that a lot of times, if you see a YouTube channel, for example, LLM, how to create a chatbot, there's tons of videos about how to create a chatbot.
Yeah.
But you need to kind of think about the end-to-end solution, right? There are a lot of people teaching how to create chatbot, but then maybe they're teaching how to use open source model to create a chatbot, or how to fine-tune with that. But then in real life, you do not have the GPU enough to run on your laptop, or you don't have a cloud computing, or even if you have it, there is a lot of price associated to it they don't talk about in the video. So that's one thing. And yeah, exactly. So when it comes to actual implementation, let's say for your own business or for someone in the company, for your client, you have to look into all the entire life cycle from end to end of the solution. So you cannot just say, oh, I built this model using this and that, and maybe using this ChatGPT, GPT 3.5 Turbo API, right? You could do that. It's fun, yes, but it's not going to be the final solution. So just weed out the stuff that you see that, you know what, this is interesting, but this is not really actually going to be part of the end-to-end solution. Maybe you can skip through that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, I think there has not been any indication for a question. And okay, somebody has a question. Christy is asking, says that regarding data science, how do I enhance my learning efficiency and effectiveness after so many times of failing? So how do I enhance my efficiency and effectiveness and learning after so many times of failing?
Yeah, it's a very discouraging feeling, if you fail over and over. I don't know what you mean by failing, like learning technical skills is difficult or getting a job is difficult, because there are two different failing that can happen in the data science, right? So I'd say if the case is first, if you're trying to learn something, but you're just not grasping it, then you can I think it really helps if you're part of the court. Okay, so he said, Christy said that it's about learning technical skills. Yeah, so you really, it's really helpful if you see how others solve the problem and for the same goal that you have. So if you're in a project, let's say volunteer project in Umdena that I mentioned before, or some other cohort-based mentoring programs, then you are trying to solve the same problem. But many people might have different approaches. So by looking at those, you get an idea one might be an efficient solution. Maybe you haven't thought about that, but then the other person solves in a different way, and it all of a sudden enlightens you to solve the problem as well. So I think that's the best way to kind of approach when you feel overwhelmed, and find the kind of supportive environment. I think this program that you guys have, Data Analytics Labs, also have mentors, and I'm sure there might be some Slack channel or something they can ask questions and things like that. So find a supportive environment and look for a project that you can work with a lot of people.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very good. So generally, just if you engage yourself with the right community, and it will actually help your learning, like she said. So do we have any other questions? Let me go through the charts. I don't think there are any questions.
Yeah, okay. One question from me.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so now you mentioned things like how to ask questions, like the how, the why. Yeah. So I also want to ask, how do we ask for help? Because I know when I was doing my master's, I learned this art of, some people, keep back. They are not that confident to ask for help. So they keep on struggling by themselves. But I think learning the act of asking for help, it's very important. So how do we ask for help when we are struggling?
Okay. I think the one way that I can think of is that maybe what not to do. I think it might help you to find what to do. Sometimes, like in LinkedIn or other ways, people reach out to me and asking for help. Can you share some resources about this topic? I'm learning about this and that and that and that. But as a person who's receiving the question, like, who are you? Like, why are you reaching out to me? And then why me? What have you done before? Like, I have no clue. Just like, am I a Google? Like, I'm not a Google search, right? So just when you're asking a question to somebody, Just like tell them about yourself, like why I'm reaching out to you, why I think you're the right person to answer this question, and then what I have done so far about this. And just ask nicely also, like I'm not obligated to answer your question, right? I'm not obligated to reply to you. So I think you have to kind of make it compelling for me to want to answer that question. And a lot of experts in the industry and around the world, I think they will feel somehow the similar way. So yeah, that's kind of my answer to that, how to approach person as attitude perspective. But in term, yeah. Go ahead.
No, continue.
Yeah, in terms of the content, how to ask question, and then yeah, okay, you could sometimes it's better to have a little meeting as well, right? So you can have a little copy chat and then talk about things really quickly, and then you can work things together, rather than just asking for the answer. Or some, it depends on the person, their preference is different. So see what the other person might prefer. Like I cannot have a call with you, but then if you give me enough information, I can maybe quickly answer here. So don't just say, hi, how are you? Like, I'm not going to answer your hi, how are you question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks.
So, I don't think there's no other question. I think the fact that there are very few questions means that it was very easy and simple enough that people were able to like follow it, and that's very good. We really love that. Thank you once again, Jaelin. It was really an insightful webinar. I learned a lot, and I know that our participants also did learn a lot. Thank you everyone that came in for this webinar. I hope that you guys learned, like I said, this is the first one for the year, and we have many lined up also in the coming months. We have another one next month. It's promising to be something very interesting and something that is going to be very insightful, just like this one. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. For those that didn't come in on time, I'm Aka, machine learning engineer and team lead here at Data Lab. And we have Mr. Jaelin, the senior data scientist here also. And we just want to say thank you, and you have a wonderful day. I don't know whether Mr. Jaelin has anything to say before calling.
Yeah, thank you, Jaelin. Nice to have you. Such a wonderful presentation. So I really learned a lot. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it, Yemi, for having me here, inviting me, and have an opportunity to meet all of you today. So thank you. I'm grateful. And I hope you all the best in your future, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a nice rest of the week.
So
thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and
bye.
Do have a wonderful day wherever you are. Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.